My name is Aaliyah, and for the better part of my 42 years, I measured success in digits and dominance. As the CEO of Nexus Innovations, a tech giant I'd built from a garage startup, my world was a meticulously curated spreadsheet of profits, acquisitions, and relentless expansion. I commanded respect, or so I believed, through sheer will and an unyielding grip on power. My life was a symphony of board meetings, private jets, and the constant hum of my own self-importance. I saw myself as an architect of the future, a titan whose every decision rippled through the industry. But all that changed not in some grand boardroom showdown, nor in a high-stakes negotiation. It changed in the cramped, scent-filled apartment of a woman I'd never noticed, a single mom whose quiet strength ultimately brought me to my knees. The moment of my breaking came not with a bang, but with the soft, steady rhythm of humility I had so long avoided. This isn't just my story, it's a mirror reflecting how true power isn't about what you take, but what you give, and how sometimes the most profound lessons come from the least expected places. If you've ever felt the sting of ego or the quiet whisper of a conscience, then stay with me. This is for you. My days at Nexus were a blur of calculated moves. I reveled in the cutthroat world of technology, where every competitor was a hurdle to overcome, every market share a prize to claim. My office, a sprawling testament to modern minimalist design, offered panoramic views of the city skyline, a constant reminder of the empire I had forged. My tailored suits were my armor, my sharp wit my weapon. I believed I was invincible, indispensable. Employees tiptoed around me, eager to please, terrified to displease. I dismissed their hushed reverence as a natural consequence of my brilliance, failing to see the fear in their eyes. Work-life balance was a foreign concept. Personal connections were secondary to professional conquests. My only true companion was ambition, a relentless driving force that propelled me forward, blind to the human cost of my relentless pursuit of success. I was driven, yes, but also utterly devoid of genuine empathy, my heart hardened by years of prioritizing profit over people. I saw vulnerability as a weakness, and anyone who exhibited it, especially in the workplace, was deemed expendable. This was the era of my undisputed reign, a time when I believed I was truly above it all. The city lights blurred into streaks as my car whisked me away from the office, leaving the day's victories and casualties behind. I often caught myself smiling, a small, private triumph played out against the backdrop of a setting sun. I was flying high, unaware of the impending descent. The shift began subtly, a ripple rather than a wave. It started with a minor glitch in our latest software, a seemingly insignificant bug that escalated into a full-blown system crash, jeopardizing a multi-million-dollar contract with a crucial client. Panic, a sensation I rarely indulged, began to gnaw at me. My team, usually efficient and unflagging, seemed paralyzed. Every solution they proposed was met with my impatient dismissal, every suggestion tainted by my growing frustration. The pressure mounted, each passing hour costing Nexus untold sums and threatening to tarnish my pristine reputation. It was during this escalating crisis that the name Maria Rodriguez first entered my periphery. She was an entry-level customer support representative, a single mother living in a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city, a world away from my opulent penthouse. Maria, I learned, had submitted a series of internal reports weeks prior, flagging a potential vulnerability in the very system that was now crumbling around us. Her warnings, detailed and surprisingly insightful for someone in her position, had been buried under the avalanche of more pressing corporate priorities, dismissed as the overzealous observations of an inexperienced employee. When my head of R&D, a man I'd often considered a sycophant, hesitantly brought her reports to my attention, I scoffed. A customer support rep? What could she possibly know? But as the hours stretched into days and our most brilliant engineers remained stumped, Maria's name kept resurfacing, whispered in increasingly desperate tones. Finally, with options dwindling and a desperate need for a solution, I reluctantly agreed to meet her. The disdain I felt was palpable. I expected to encounter a timid, perhaps even slightly resentful woman, eager to bask in the sudden attention. What I encountered was a woman of quiet dignity, with eyes that held an unwavering gaze, despite the visible exhaustion etched on her face. Her apartment, though small and cluttered with children's toys, exuded a warmth I hadn't felt in years. And in that humble setting, the chasm between our worlds became blindingly apparent, a chasm that was about to be bridged by a desperate plea. My designer heels clicked on the worn linoleum of Maria's hallway, each step a stark contrast to the plush carpets of my office. The air smelled of something homey, something I couldn't quite place, a stark departure from the sterile scent of my corporate empire. I entered Maria's apartment with a dismissive air, my arms crossed, my expression a carefully constructed mask of impatience. Her living room, small but meticulously clean, was filled with the vibrant chaos of a child's life, crayon drawings taped to the fridge, a brightly colored puzzle half-finished on the floor, and the faint, sweet scent of what I later learned was homemade arroz con leche. Maria, dressed in a simple faded t-shirt and jeans, gestured to a worn armchair, a stark contrast to the plush leather seating in my office. I refused, opting to remain standing, radiating an aura of barely contained annoyance. "So, Maria," I began, my voice laced with the condescension I usually reserved for incompetent subordinates, "I hear you have some theories about our current system failure." My tone was designed to belittle, to put her in her place. But Maria didn't flinch. She met my gaze, her eyes surprisingly clear and steady. "It's not theories, Ms. Thorne," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's data. I've been tracking these anomalies for weeks. The system is overloading not because of a single bug, but a cumulative effect of minor, unaddressed vulnerabilities that, when combined, create a critical mass." She then proceeded to explain, with remarkable clarity and precision, the intricacies of the software's architecture, identifying the exact points of failure and even suggesting potential patches. She spoke not in corporate jargon, but in plain, understandable terms, illustrating her points with analogies that, much to my surprise, made perfect sense. I found myself, despite my initial disdain, listening intently. My internal firewall of arrogance began to crack. She described how the system's resource allocation was flawed, how certain subroutines were creating memory leaks, and how the recent update, designed to improve performance, had inadvertently amplified these underlying issues. Her understanding was far more profound than any of my highly paid engineers had demonstrated. She knew the system not just from a technical perspective, but from the users, understanding the real-world impact of every glitch. She wasn't just a voice on a phone line. She was the face of every frustrated customer, every lost sale. As she spoke, my gaze drifted around her humble apartment. I noticed the faded photographs on a small shelf, a smiling boy no older than 8, his arms wrapped around Maria. I saw the worn edges of her couch, the meticulously mended tear in a child's blanket draped over it. This wasn't a woman chasing power or prestige. This was a woman fighting for her livelihood, for her son, with a clarity of purpose that dwarfed my own. The depth of her knowledge, combined with the raw honesty of her struggle, began to chip away at my carefully constructed facade. It was a humbling revelation watching this woman, whom I had so carelessly dismissed, articulate a solution that had eluded my entire, highly paid and supposedly brilliant team. Leaving Maria's apartment that day, the hum of the city seemed to amplify the silence in my own head. The usual rush of ambition had quieted, replaced by an unfamiliar, unsettling echo of self-reflection. The solution Maria proposed was elegant in its simplicity and devastatingly effective. Within hours of implementing her suggested patches, the system stabilized, the crisis averted. The relief that washed over me was immense, but it was quickly overshadowed by a gnawing sense of shame. I had dismissed her, scorned her, and yet she had saved my company. The irony was not lost on me. I spent the next few days in a state of quiet introspection, a rare occurrence for a woman whose life was usually a whirlwind of external demands. I replayed our conversation, her calm demeanor, her clear explanations, her unwavering gaze. I realized I hadn't truly seen her, or anyone like her, before. My world had been so insulated, so focused on the upper echelons of corporate power, that I had become blind to the quiet competence and profound resilience that existed beyond my gilded cage. I started observing my employees more closely, not as cogs in a machine, but as individuals with their own lives, struggles, and strengths. I saw the quiet determination of a junior analyst working late nights, the collaborative spirit of a team tackling a challenging project, the genuine concern in the eyes of an HR manager addressing an employee's personal crisis. My arrogance had created a barrier, preventing me from truly connecting with the very people who contributed to my success. The seeds of humility, once so foreign, were beginning to sprout within me. It was an uncomfortable process, acknowledging my own fallibility, my own profound misjudgment. But with that discomfort came a glimmer of something new, genuine curiosity and perhaps the first stirrings of empathy. I knew I needed to do more than just acknowledge Maria's contribution. I needed to understand it and, more importantly, learn from it. The hum of the servers in our data center, once a mere background noise, now seemed to whisper a new truth: that the most powerful solutions often come from the most unexpected corners. My perspective was shifting, slowly but irrevocably. My transformation wasn't immediate or dramatic, but a slow, often painful unraveling of years of ingrained habits. I found myself going back to Maria's apartment, not for technical advice, but simply to talk. Our conversations drifted from software architecture to the challenges of single parenthood, the struggles of making ends meet, the constant juggle of work and family. I learned about her son, Miguel, a bright and curious boy who adored his mother. I saw the sacrifices Maria made, the dreams she had put on hold, all to provide a stable life for him. I saw her exhaustion, the lines of worry etched around her eyes, but also the fierce, unwavering love that fueled her every action. It was a stark contrast to my own life, where convenience and self-indulgence were the norms. My wealth had shielded me from the harsh realities that Maria navigated daily. I had been so focused on acquiring more, on building my empire, that I had become oblivious to the unseen costs, the human toll of a system that often overlooked its most valuable assets. I started to see the world through her eyes, a world where a broken washing machine was a major crisis, where a sick child meant lost wages, where every decision carried immense weight. This newfound perspective wasn't just intellectual, it was deeply emotional. It stirred something within me that had long been dormant, a sense of responsibility, not just to my shareholders, but to the people who made my company run, people like Maria, who worked tirelessly, often invisibly, to keep the wheels turning. The chasm between us, once so vast, began to shrink, bridged by shared humanity and a growing understanding of the often invisible burdens others carry. The once familiar skyline from my office window now looked different, painted with new colors of understanding. The towering buildings, once symbols of my power, now seemed to whisper stories of the people within them, each with their own unseen burdens and quiet triumphs. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just about Maria saving my company, it was about her saving me. She had, unknowingly, become the catalyst for my awakening, stripping away my layers of ego and revealing the hollow core beneath. One afternoon, during one of our increasingly frequent talks in her modest living room, I found myself overwhelmed by a sudden, profound wave of emotion. Her resilience, her quiet strength, her unwavering love for her son, all coalesced into a powerful understanding of what true power really meant. It wasn't the power of money or position, but the power of integrity, of perseverance, of selfless devotion. I looked at her, truly saw her, for the first time, not as an employee, but as a teacher, a mentor, a living embodiment of the values I had so carelessly dismissed. I felt a knot in my throat, a burning sensation behind my eyes. And then, without conscious thought, I found myself doing something I never, in a million years, would have imagined. I sank to my knees before her, right there on her worn rug, amidst Miguel's scattered toys. It wasn't a gesture of supplication in the traditional sense, but an involuntary expression of profound respect, of overwhelming gratitude, and of deep, heartfelt apology. "Maria," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion, "I am so incredibly sorry. For everything. For my arrogance, for my blindness, for not seeing you, truly seeing you until now. You saved my company, yes, but you've done something far more important. You've saved me from myself." Her eyes widened in surprise, then softened with an understanding that transcended words. She didn't offer pity or condescension, only a gentle hand on my shoulder. In that moment, kneeling before a single mom's humble power, I felt a sense of liberation, a shedding of the heavy weight of my own self-importance. It was the most vulnerable I had ever been, and paradoxically, the most genuinely powerful. The journey back to my penthouse felt different that evening. The silence in the car wasn't empty, but filled with the quiet resonance of a truth finally understood. The city lights, once a cold spectacle, now shimmered with a newfound warmth. Today, Nexus Innovations is a different company, and I am a profoundly changed woman. Maria, of course, is no longer in customer support. She's a valued member of our executive team, leading a division focused on employee empowerment and ethical innovation. Her insights, once dismissed, are now sought after and celebrated. The company's culture has shifted from one of fear and hierarchy to one of collaboration and empathy. We invest in our people, recognizing that true innovation springs not from individual brilliance alone, but from the collective strength and diverse perspectives of every single team member. We've implemented programs to support single parents, to provide affordable childcare, and to foster a genuine sense of community. The lesson I learned from Maria, that true power lies in humility and gratitude, has become the bedrock of my leadership. I no longer chase profits with ruthless abandon. I strive to build a company that is not only successful, but also socially responsible and deeply human. My life, once dictated by the relentless pursuit of more, is now centered on connection, contribution, and an unwavering commitment to seeing and valuing the inherent worth in every individual. I have learned that the greatest achievements are not found in towering buildings or bulging bank accounts, but in the quiet acts of kindness, the profound lessons learned from unexpected sources, and the courage to shed one's ego and embrace the transformative power of gratitude. If my story resonates with you, I urge you to look beyond the surface, to seek out the quiet strengths in those around you, and to embrace the humbling journey of growth. For it is in humility that we truly find our greatest power, and in gratitude, our deepest joy. My journey from arrogance to gratitude has been a long one, but it has led me to a richer, more meaningful life, a life where the most valuable kneeling I ever did was before the humble power of a single mom.